Commander Zexhai had seen war before. Countless battles across 17 star systems had taught him the nature of conflict. Violence was calculated, controlled. Civilized species fought with honor codes, predetermined rules, and logical restraint. The Galactic Coalition had maintained peace for 3 centuries through these principles. Standing on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Vigilance, Zexhai watched the human fleet approach through the viewscreen. Intelligence reports called them Terrans, a newly discovered species from a backwater planet called Earth. They had requested membership in the Coalition 6 months ago. The request was denied. Now they were here anyway. "Sir, the human vessels are not responding to our hail," reported Communications Officer Neltar, her blue-scaled hands dancing over the control panel. "They maintain formation at maximum weapons range." Zexhai's 4 eyes studied the approaching ships. They looked crude compared to Coalition vessels. Blocky. Functional. No elegant curves or artistic flourishes that marked civilized spacecraft design. These humans clearly understood little about proper military aesthetics. "How many ships?" he asked. 47 vessels, sir. Mixed classes. Our sensors detect unusual energy signatures." Lieutenant Commander Vorake stepped forward, his crystalline form catching the bridge lighting. "Sir, shall I activate the pacification field? Standard protocol suggests we disable their weapons systems first, then board for educational purposes." Zexhai nodded. The pacification field was Coalition standard practice. It temporarily disrupted weapon systems without causing permanent damage or loss of life. Very civilized. Very proper. After disabling the human fleet, Coalition diplomats would explain why their membership application was rejected. These humans would learn proper galactic etiquette. Activate pacification field. Target all human vessels simultaneously. The bridge hummed as massive energy projectors charged. Across the Coalition fleet of 200 ships, identical systems prepared to fire. The technology was ancient, refined, perfect. No known species had ever resisted it. The field engaged. Light erupted across space as invisible energy waves struck the human fleet. Coalition sensors immediately began scanning for the expected power drain in human vessels. Weapons should be offline within seconds. Engines would follow within minutes. Then, the humans would drift helplessly while Coalition forces explained proper first contact procedures. The scanning results appeared on Zexhai's command screen. "Nothing." "Report," he demanded. Neltar's voice carried confusion. "Sir, the pacification field appears to have no effect. Human vessels maintain full power and weapons capability." "Impossible." "Run diagnostics on the field generators." "Diagnostics complete, sir. All systems functioning perfectly. The field is operating at maximum efficiency." Zexhai felt his first tremor of unease. In 3 centuries, no species had ever shrugged off a pacification field. The technology worked by disrupting the quantum foundations of directed energy weapons and faster-than-light drives. It was based on fundamental physical laws. "Perhaps their technology is too primitive to be affected," suggested Vorake. "Ancient kinetic weapons might function outside field parameters." Before Zexhai could respond, the human fleet moved. They didn't advance in the careful, measured formation Coalition doctrine demanded. They didn't request parley or attempt communication. They simply accelerated toward the Coalition fleet with shocking speed. "Sir!" Neltar's voice jumped an octave. "Human ships are achieving 0.97 light speed without engaging faster-than-light drives. That's impossible. No ship can maintain structural integrity at those speeds in normal space." "Confirming readings, sir. They're using some form of inertial dampening system our sensors can't identify." The human ships closed the distance in minutes instead of hours. Zexhai watched with growing alarm as the crude-looking vessels revealed their true nature. What he had mistaken for poor design was actually functional efficiency. Every line served a purpose. Every surface mounted weapons or defensive systems. The humans opened fire. Coalition doctrine called for precise, targeted strikes against specific ship systems. Disable communications first, then weapons, then engines. Minimize casualties. Preserve infrastructure. Fight with honor. The humans ignored every rule. Their weapons fired continuously, not aimed shots but devastating volleys that lit up space like a star going nova. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and weapons types coalition sensors couldn't identify poured from human ships in streams of destruction. The coalition cruiser Noble Purpose died first. Human fire punched through its shields, armor, and hull in seconds. The ship didn't have time to send a distress signal before it exploded. Return fire. HFY ordered. All ships engaged defensive formations. The coalition fleet responded with textbook precision. Ships moved into proper combat alignment. Weapons systems charged according to protocol. Target locks acquired priority systems on human vessels. The coordinated response did nothing. Human ships moved like living things, changing direction without warning, accelerating and decelerating in patterns that should have killed their crews. They fought without formations, without apparent coordination, each ship acting independently while somehow maintaining perfect tactical awareness. "Sir, we've achieved target lock on the lead human vessel," reported Weapons Officer Krental. "Requesting permission to fire." "Granted." "Disable their engines." The Eternal Vigilance fired its primary beam cannon, a weapon capable of precisely cutting through the most advanced armor to disable specific ship systems. The beam struck the human ship directly. And bounced off. "What just happened?" HFY demanded. Krental stared at his instruments in disbelief. "Sir, the human ship appears to have adaptive shielding. The moment our beam made contact, their shields modulated to exactly counter our frequency." "Impossible. Adaptive shields are theoretical technology. The computational power required exceeds, sir." Neltar interrupted. "Emergency transmission from Admiral Zevon aboard the Righteous Fury. He reports complete system failure after engaging human vessels. His ship is dead in space." Through the viewscreen, HFY watched 3 more coalition ships die. Human weapons seemed designed for one purpose: maximum destruction in minimum time. No precision. No restraint. No honor. Just overwhelming, terrifying violence. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet," Neltar announced. "Put it on speaker." The voice that emerged from the communications system was calm, professional, and utterly cold. "Coalition fleet, this is Admiral Saracen of the Terran Federation Navy. You have fired upon our ships without provocation. Surrender immediately or we will consider you hostile." HFY found his voice. "This is Commander HFY of the Coalition 5th Fleet. We were implementing standard first contact procedures. Your species has no authorization for military presence in this sector." A pause. "Then, Commander, you attempted to disable our fleet without warning or justification. In human terms, that's an act of war. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." "Boarded?" HFY's 4 eyes widened. "We outnumber you more than 4 to 1. 25 seconds. HFY looked at his tactical display. Coalition losses were mounting rapidly. Human ships continued their devastating attack, showing no signs of damage despite concentrated fire from dozens of coalition vessels. Whatever these humans were, they fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. "Sir," Vorake said quietly, "perhaps we should consider their terms. This engagement is not proceeding according to doctrine." 15 seconds, the human admiral announced. Around them, the battle raged. Coalition ships died with mechanical precision as human weapons found weak points that shouldn't exist. The humans fought without mercy, without restraint, without any regard for the civilized rules of war. 10 seconds. HFY had commanded coalition forces for 40 years. He had fought pirates, rebels, and rogue states. He understood war. Tactics. Strategy. The careful balance between victory and honor that defines civilized conflict. He had never seen anything like this. 5 seconds. The humans weren't just winning. They were demonstrating that everything the coalition believed about warfare was wrong. Rules meant nothing. Honor was a weakness. Overwhelming violence applied without hesitation could achieve in minutes what careful tactics took hours to accomplish. "Time's up, Commander." The human fleet suddenly split into 4 groups, each moving with impossible speed to surround different sections of the coalition formation. It was a maneuver that should have taken careful coordination and extensive communication. The humans executed it in seconds. All ships, HFY transmitted on the fleet command frequency, power down weapons systems. Prepare to be boarded. The order felt like swallowing poison. In 3 centuries of coalition military service, no fleet had ever surrendered to an inferior force. The very concept violated every principle of galactic warfare. But, as HFY watched the last of his cruisers explode under human fire, he began to understand something that would change his view of war forever. The humans weren't an inferior force. They weren't even playing the same game. Across the fleet, coalition ships powered down their weapons. The human attack ceased immediately, not gradually, but instantly, as if controlled by a single mind. The sudden silence felt more terrifying than the battle had. "Sir," Neltar reported, "human shuttles are approaching all coalition vessels simultaneously." HFY watched the small craft approach his flagship. They moved with the same impossible precision as the warships, fast, direct, purposeful. No wasted motion. No decorative elements. Pure function. "Open docking bay 7, he ordered. "Maintain honor guard protocol." Minutes later, the first humans walked onto his ship. They were smaller than most coalition species, bipedal, covered in what appeared to be artificial skin. Their faces were mobile, expressive, unsettling. But what struck HFY most was their eyes. Every human he saw had the same look, calm, alert, and absolutely without fear. These weren't conquerors drunk on victory. They were professionals doing a job. The lead human approached. Female, according to his briefings on Terran biology. She carried no visible weapons but moved with predatory grace that made HFY's security team nervous. "Commander HFY? I'm Colonel Martinez. I'll be coordinating the boarding operation. What are your intentions regarding our crews?" "Medical care for your wounded. Food and water for everyone else. We'll be conducting interviews to understand why you attacked us, then arranging transportation back to coalition space." HFY stared at her. "You're not taking prisoners? Why would we? You're not a threat anymore." The casual dismissal stung worse than defeat. To the humans, the coalition fleet that had terrorized rebel systems for decades was simply not worth keeping as prisoners. "Colonel, I must ask, how did your ships resist our pacification field?" Martinez smiled, and the expression somehow made her more frightening. "Commander, your people seem to think there's only one way to build advanced technology. You've been using the same basic principles for centuries. Very elegant. Very efficient. Very predictable." She gestured toward the viewscreen, where human ships maintained perfect formation around the disabled coalition fleet. "Humans don't think like that. We don't look for the most elegant solution. We look for solutions that work. When we discovered your pacification field technology in your first contact databases, we spent 3 months figuring out 17 different ways to defeat it." 17? "Our ships are currently using method number 4. We thought it would be sufficient." HFY felt something cold settle in his stomach. What would method number 1 accomplish? Martinez's smile faded. "Method number 1 would turn your pacification field generators into bombs. We prefer to avoid unnecessary casualties." As if summoned by her words, more humans appeared throughout the ship. They moved through the corridors with mechanical efficiency, checking on wounded coalition crew members, securing weapons systems, taking control of critical areas. None of them seemed excited about their victory. This was routine for them. "Colonel," HFY said carefully, "how long has humanity been at war?" "Continuously? About 12,000 years, give or take. We're very good at it." 12,000 years. The coalition had enjoyed peace for 3 centuries and considered itself the pinnacle of military science. These humans had been fighting wars since before coalition species had discovered fire. "But why did you come here?" "Our rejection of your membership application was based on standard criteria." "Commander," Martinez interrupted, "we didn't come here about the membership application." "Then, why?" 3 weeks ago, coalition forces attacked a human exploration ship in the Kepler sector. 23 crew members were killed. Your government claimed the attack was an accident. Zexai's blood chilled. He remembered the incident. A coalition patrol had encountered an unidentified vessel and fired warning shots. The alien ship had apparently misunderstood and moved into the line of fire. That was a tragic misunderstanding. No, Martinez said quietly. It was murder. Your patrol commander fired on an unarmed science vessel conducting legitimate research. When the ship tried to escape, your people hunted it down and killed everyone aboard. But your investigation concluded what your government wanted it to conclude. Our investigation reached different findings. Around them, the boarding operation continued. Humans worked with frightening efficiency, taking control of ship systems, cataloging weapons, providing medical aid to coalition wounded. They treated their enemies better than the coalition treated its allies. So this is revenge? Zexai asked. Martinez considered the question. No. This is a lesson. What kind of lesson? The kind that makes sure it never happens again. Through the communications system, reports filtered in from across the coalition fleet. Human boarding parties had secured every ship without firing a shot. Coalition crew members reported being treated with professional courtesy while their vessels were systematically disabled. Sir, Neltar reported, Admiral Chen is requesting communication with you. Put her through. The human admiral's voice filled the bridge. Commander Zexai, your fleet has been disabled and your crews are secure. We're transmitting a complete record of today's engagement to Coalition High Command along with evidence regarding the Kepler sector incident. Admiral, what do you want from us? Justice for the crew of the exploration ship Curiosity. A formal apology from the coalition government. And assurance that human vessels will be permitted free passage through coalition space pending our membership application review. Zexai found himself laughing bitterly. You destroyed our fleet for an apology? No, Commander. We destroyed your fleet to demonstrate that we can. The apology is to demonstrate that you should. The transmission ended. Colonel Martinez watched Zexai process the implications. Commander, you keep asking what we want. That's the wrong question. What's the right question? What happens if you say no? Before Zexai could respond, tactical alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Neltar checked her instruments with growing alarm. Sir, our sensors are detecting massive energy signatures approaching from the outer system. Multiple contacts, moving at impossible speeds. Through the view screen, new lights appeared among the stars. Dozens of them. Then, hundreds. Martinez checked a device on her wrist. That would be the second fleet arriving. We figured one fleet might not be enough to make our point clear. Zexai stared at the approaching lights. Each one represented a human warship. The small fleet that had just destroyed his forces was apparently just the opening move. How many ships? About 3,000, Martinez said casually. Give or take. 3,000. The entire coalition navy numbered less than 500 vessels. For the first time in his long military career, Zexai truly understood what he was facing. The humans hadn't sent a fleet to demand an apology. They had sent an invasion force to guarantee compliance. Colonel, he said slowly, exactly what do humans consider appropriate compensation for 23 murdered crew members? Martinez smiled again, and this time Zexai recognized the expression for what it was. Not cruelty. Not bloodthirst. Simple, professional satisfaction at a job well done. Commander, that depends entirely on how reasonable the coalition chooses to be. As the second fleet approached, Zexai began composing his report to Coalition High Command. How could he explain that everything they believed about warfare was wrong? How could he describe an enemy that fought without honor, without restraint, without mercy, and somehow still maintained perfect discipline and professional courtesy? How could he explain that the humans weren't monsters? They were something far more terrifying than monsters. They were very, very good at what they did. Admiral Zevon had survived the Battle of the Crimson Nebula. He had commanded coalition forces during the rebel uprising of 2387. He had personally negotiated the surrender of the notorious pirate fleet at Andromeda's edge. In 50 years of military service, he had never sent a message like the one he was composing now. Coalition High Command, this is Admiral Zevon reporting on the engagement with Terran forces in the Sigma Draconis system. Our fleet of 200 vessels has been completely disabled by 47 human ships. I repeat, we have been defeated. He paused the recording, staring at the words on his command screen. Defeated. The word felt alien in Coalition military vocabulary. Around him, the bridge of the Righteous Fury hummed with unfamiliar activity. Human technicians worked alongside his crew, repairing battle damage with disturbing efficiency. Their technology integrated seamlessly with Coalition systems, as if they had studied Coalition engineering for decades. Sir, his communications officer reported, High Command is requesting immediate clarification of your previous transmission. Zevon wasn't surprised. Coalition High Command had probably never received a surrender report before. Tell them I'm preparing a full tactical analysis. Have them stand by. Through his viewscreen, he watched the human fleet maintain perfect formation around his disabled ships. The second fleet had arrived 3 hours ago, 3,000 vessels that appeared from hyperspace with timing so precise it seemed choreographed. The sight had broken something in the Coalition crews. When your enemy could summon reinforcements that outnumbered your entire navy, traditional military thinking became irrelevant. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. Admiral Zevon? This is Admiral Chen. I'd like to discuss our next steps. Zevon straightened in his command chair. The human admiral had been unfailingly polite during their initial contact, which somehow made her more intimidating than threats would have been. Admiral Chen. What are your terms? No terms, Admiral. We're returning your crews to Coalition space. Your ships will be towed to the nearest neutral system where Coalition vessels can retrieve them. Zevon frowned. You're releasing us? Of course. Why would we keep you? But, we attacked your fleet. We're prisoners of war. A pause. Then, Chen's voice returned, carrying what sounded like genuine confusion. Admiral, we're not at war with the Coalition. We're seeking justice for a specific incident. Taking prisoners would serve no purpose. Through his decades of military experience, Zevon struggled to understand this logic. Victor takes prisoners. Victor extracts concessions. Victor demonstrates superiority through mercy that could be withdrawn at any moment. These humans seem to view victory as simply a tool for achieving specific objectives. Admiral Chen, may I speak frankly? Please do. My government will not view this engagement favorably. They may interpret your actions as an act of war. Another pause. Longer this time. Admiral, are you advising us that the Coalition intends to retaliate for this incident? The question was asked in the same polite tone, but something in it made Zevon's skin crawl. It wasn't a threat. It was a request for information that would determine how seriously to take future Coalition military actions. I'm saying they might consider it. I see. Thank you for the warning. The transmission ended. Within minutes, Zevon watched the human fleet begin moving. Not retreating, repositioning. The second fleet spread into formations that his tactical computer couldn't analyze. The movements were too complex, too coordinated, too purposeful. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human fleet appears to be establishing defensive perimeters around 17 different star systems. Zevon checked his star charts. The 17 systems included every major Coalition military base, shipyard, and command center within 50 light-years. In 3 hours, the humans had positioned forces to simultaneously threaten the heart of Coalition military power. Sir, incoming priority transmission from Coalition High Command. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to Fleet Admiral Kekstar, Supreme Commander of Coalition forces. His expression suggested he was questioning the sanity of everyone involved. Admiral Zevon, explain to me how 200 ships were defeated by fewer than 50 primitive vessels. Zevon had dreaded this conversation. Admiral, the humans are not primitive. Their technology is at least equal to ours, possibly superior in several key areas. Impossible. Our intelligence reports indicate they achieved spaceflight less than 2 centuries ago. Sir, our intelligence reports were wrong. On the screen, Admiral Kekstar's 4 eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting Coalition intelligence failed to properly assess a potential threat? I'm suggesting we don't understand what we're dealing with. Before Kekstar could respond, new alarms sounded on both ships. Zevon's tactical officer looked up from his instruments with barely controlled panic. "Sir, massive hyperspace signatures detected. Something big is coming out of jump space." Through the viewscreen, space twisted as a single enormous vessel emerged from hyperspace. It was easily 10 times the size of the largest coalition ship, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays that defied classification. "Sir," the tactical officer whispered, "that ship is reading is 12 kilometers long." Admiral Kekstar stared through the transmission link. "What is that thing?" Before anyone could answer, communications crackled to life. "Coalition vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Harrison of the Terran Federation Navy, commanding the TNS Indomitable. I understand we have a situation to discuss." Zevon found his voice. "Admiral Harrison, this is Admiral Zevon. Are you here to negotiate?" A pause. "Admiral, I'm here to prevent a war that would be very bad for both our peoples." The massive ship moved into position near the human fleet. Immediately, 3,000 human vessels began coordinated maneuvers around the newcomer. The precision was hypnotic and terrifying. "Sir," Zevon's communications officer announced, "Admiral Harrison is requesting communication with Coalition High Command." Admiral Kekstar nodded grimly. "Put him through." The image that appeared showed a human male, older than the previous officers, with completely white hair and eyes that suggested he had seen more combat than the rest of his fleet combined. "Admiral Kekstar, I presume?" "I'm Fleet Admiral Harrison. We need to talk." "Admiral Harrison, your forces have attacked coalition vessels without provocation. This act of aggression will not go unanswered." Harrison smiled, and the expression was not reassuring. "Admiral, 3 weeks ago a coalition patrol murdered 23 unarmed human scientists. Today, we disabled your fleet while ensuring minimal casualties. Which of us committed an act of aggression?" "The Kepler sector incident was investigated and deemed accidental. Your investigation was either incompetent or deliberately fraudulent. We have sensor records from our ship showing your patrol commander specifically targeting life support systems after our crew attempted to surrender." The bridge fell silent. Zevon had read the official report on the Kepler incident. It described a tragic misunderstanding during first contact procedures. Harrison continued. "Admiral, we're not here to conquer anyone. We're here to ensure that human vessels receive the same protection in coalition space that coalition vessels would expect in human space." "What exactly are you demanding?" "Justice for the murdered crew. Formal recognition of human territorial claims. And membership in the Galactic Coalition under equal terms." Admiral Kekstar's expression hardened. "The Coalition does not negotiate under duress." "You're not under duress, Admiral. You're under correction." "What's the difference?" Harrison's smile faded. "Duress implies we want something from you that we can't get ourselves. Correction implies we're teaching you better behavior." The massive ship's sensor arrays suddenly flared to life. Zevon's instruments detected scanning beams reaching across impossible distances. "Sir," his sensor operator reported, "the human ship is conducting detailed scans of Coalition home systems." "That's impossible. Coalition home systems are hundreds of light years away." "Sir, their sensors appear to be quantum entangled. They're scanning in real time regardless of distance." On the transmission screen, Admiral Harrison nodded. "We've just completed a comprehensive survey of Coalition military assets. You have 437 operational warships, 18 major shipyards, and 43 defended star systems. The casual violation of Coalition security sent chills through every officer present. We also have detailed scans of your population centers, industrial facilities, and command structures. Please understand, we're not threatening these locations. We're simply ensuring that you understand the scope of what we're capable of." Admiral Kekstar found his voice. "How many ships does humanity command? Currently deployed?" "About 8,000. Total fleet strength is classified, but let's say it's considerably larger." 8,000 ships. The Coalition had spent 3 centuries believing they commanded the largest military force in known space. "Admiral," Harrison continued, "we're going to withdraw our fleet now. We've made our point. But, understand human vessels will be traveling through Coalition space as we continue our exploration and colonization efforts. We expect the same courtesy you would show any coalition member species. And, if we refuse? Harrison's expression became very serious. Admiral, in human terms, what happened to your fleet today was a police action. Strictly law enforcement. If you want to see what human military action looks like, continue attacking our ships. The transmission ended. Across the human fleet, vessels began jumping to hyperspace with the same mechanical precision they had shown in battle. Within minutes, only the massive flagship remained. Coalition forces, Admiral Harrison's voice announced, you'll find complete documentation regarding our territorial claims and membership application transmitted to your navigation computers. We look forward to more productive discussions in the future. The Indomitable vanished into hyperspace. Admiral Zevon stared at the empty space where 3,000 human ships had been moments before. The silence felt oppressive. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving new transmissions from Coalition High Command. Admiral Kekstar appeared on screen again. His expression suggested a man trying to process impossible information. Admiral Zevon, prepare a full tactical report on human capabilities. Include everything: ship performance, weapon systems, defensive measures, fleet coordination. Everything. Yes, sir. And, Admiral? In your professional opinion, what would happen if the coalition chose to reject human demands? Zevon considered the question carefully. He thought about the casual efficiency with which 47 ships had destroyed his fleet. The perfect coordination of 3,000 vessels appearing from hyperspace. The terrifying capabilities of the flagship that could scan coalition home systems from hundreds of light years away. Most importantly, he thought about the complete lack of cruelty or bloodthirst he had seen in human actions. They fought with devastating effectiveness but without hatred. They won decisively but treated their enemies with professional courtesy. These were not conquerors driven by ambition or madness. They were soldiers doing a job they understood very well. Sir, in my professional opinion, rejection of human demands would result in the complete destruction of coalition military forces within 72 hours. Are you certain? Sir, what we saw today was not their military at full strength. It was a demonstration. They could have destroyed every ship in our fleet in the first 5 minutes of engagement. Instead, they disabled our weapons and accepted our surrender. Why would they show such restraint? Zevon thought about Colonel Martinez's words during the boarding operation. About justice versus revenge. About lessons that ensure things never happen again. Because they don't want to rule us, sir. They want us to behave better. Admiral Kekstar was quiet for a long moment. Prepare your report, Admiral. I'll be meeting with the Coalition Council within the hour. After the transmission ended, Zevon began composing his tactical analysis. How could he explain that humanity fought wars the way other species conducted scientific experiments, with perfect methodology, precise objectives, and clinical detachment from emotional considerations? How could he describe warriors who were more terrifying for their restraint than other species were for their brutality? His sensor operator broke the silence. Sir, we're detecting a single human vessel approaching at sublight speed. Through the viewscreen, a small human ship approached the disabled coalition fleet. It was clearly unarmed, a courier vessel or transport. Sir, incoming transmission. Put it through. The voice belonged to Colonel Martinez. Admiral Zevon, we're delivering medical supplies and emergency repair equipment for your fleet. We'll also be providing transportation home for any crew members requiring immediate medical attention. Zevon stared at the approaching vessel. Colonel, why are you helping us? A pause. Admiral, just because we're very good at breaking things doesn't mean we enjoy it. Your people are injured. We can help. It's that simple. Hours later, as Zevon watched human medical teams work alongside coalition doctors to treat injured crew members, he began to understand something that would change his entire perspective on warfare. The humans weren't just superior warriors. They were something far more dangerous than superior warriors. They were superior people. And that made all the difference in the galaxy. Council chambers on the coalition capital world of Nexus Prime had never hosted a session like this one. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Galactic Coalition was considering surrender to a species they had never officially met. Chancellor Veldan stood at the center of the vast circular chamber, her tentacles coiled with stress as she addressed the assembled representatives of 47 member worlds. Around her, the greatest minds of galactic civilization struggled to process information that challenged everything they understood about military power. "The tactical reports are clear," she announced, her translator converting her native chemical signals into standard galactic speech. "Our Fifth Fleet was completely disabled by a force one-fourth its size. The humans achieved this victory in less than 2 hours with minimal casualties on either side." Representative Torgon of the Hegemony Worlds raised his crystalline arm. "Chancellor, our intelligence services assured us that this humanity represented no threat to coalition interests." "How did they miscalculate so drastically?" Chancellor Veldan activated the main display, showing sensor footage from the battle. The gathered representatives watched in silence as human ships moved with impossible coordination, weapons firing in patterns that defied conventional tactical analysis. "Our intelligence services made assumptions based on observing human space from a distance. We detected industrial activity suggesting early space-age development. We observed ship designs that appeared primitive compared to coalition standards. We concluded that humanity was centuries behind our technological development." The display shifted to show the massive human flagship that had appeared after the battle. "We were wrong. Humanity doesn't just possess advanced technology. They possess fundamentally different technology. Their approach to engineering, physics, and military science operates on principles we don't recognize." Representative Ziltak of the Trade Federation leaned forward on his hovering platform. "How is that possible? Physical laws are universal constants." "Physical laws are universal," agreed Chief Science Advisor Runmal, stepping forward to address the council. "But interpretations and applications can vary dramatically. Humans appear to have developed solutions to technological challenges that we solved differently or never encountered at all." She activated a technical schematic. "For example, our faster-than-light drives manipulate spacetime through controlled gravitational fields. Human drives appear to manipulate quantum probability itself. Both methods achieve the same result, but human ships can achieve near-light speeds in normal space without the structural limitations that constrain our vessels." Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Furthermore, Runmal continued, "Their defensive systems adapt in real time to incoming weapons. Our pacification field technology, which has been effective against every known species for centuries, had no impact on human ships whatsoever." "What about their weapons?" asked General Kexnar, the Coalition's supreme military commander. "Our ships reported unprecedented destructive capability. Human weapons appear designed for maximum damage rather than precise disabling strikes. They don't fight to capture or control enemy assets. They fight to eliminate threats completely and permanently." Chancellor Veldan felt the weight of the galaxy settling on her shoulders. "That brings us to our current situation. Admiral Harrison has transmitted formal demands to Coalition High Command." The main display showed the document that had arrived 6 hours earlier. Its contents had triggered the emergency session. They demand formal justice for the crew killed in the Kepler sector incident. They demand recognition of their territorial claims in 17 star systems. And they demand immediate admission to the Galactic Coalition as a full member species with voting rights. Representative Morvex of the Outer Rim territories stood. "Chancellor, the Coalition does not negotiate under threat of force." Our principles," interrupted General Kexnar, "assume we're negotiating from a position of strength. The tactical analysis makes it clear that we are not." He activated his own display, showing Fleet Admiral Harrison's massive ship alongside detailed specifications that Coalition scientists had managed to compile. "The human flagship alone carries more firepower than our 10 largest vessels combined. Their fleet of 8,000 ships could engage our entire navy and win decisively within hours. This is not a negotiation. It's an ultimatum." "But surely they're not asking for the impossible," suggested Representative Luquette of the Academic Consortium. "Justice for their dead crew seems reasonable. Territorial recognition follows standard protocols for newly contacted species. And Coalition membership is available to any qualified civilization." Chancellor Veldan activated another display. The complications arise from their specific demands regarding justice. The assembled representatives read the human requirements in stunned silence. They want the patrol commander who ordered the attack on their ship stripped of rank and turned over to human authorities for trial. They want formal admission of guilt from Coalition High Command. And they want reparations paid to the families of the dead crew members. Impossible, declared Representative Torgon. Coalition officers cannot be subject to alien justice systems. It sets a precedent that undermines our sovereignty. The alternative, General Kexenar said quietly, is war with a species that could destroy our civilization. The chamber erupted in debate. Representatives shouted arguments in a dozen languages while translators struggled to keep pace. Through the chaos, Chancellor Veldan felt the weight of an impossible decision. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority transmission. The chamber's communications system activated automatically. Coalition Council, a familiar voice announced, "This is Fleet Admiral Harrison. I apologize for the interruption, but we've detected significant military activity in Coalition space." The debate stopped instantly. Every representative stared at the communication array as if it might explode. "Admiral Harrison," Chancellor Veldan replied, "this is Chancellor Veldan of the Coalition Council. What military activity concerns you?" "We're tracking mobilization orders to 43 separate coalition fleets. Approximately 2,000 ships are currently moving toward human space. I wanted to confirm whether this represents an official coalition response to our territorial claims." The chamber fell completely silent. Chancellor Veldan felt ice forming in her circulatory systems. "Admiral, those fleet movements are precautionary measures. Normal defensive positioning in response to the recent incident." "I see. Chancellor, may I speak frankly?" "Please do. We really don't want a war with the coalition. Your people are clearly intelligent and civilized. A conflict between our species would benefit no one and result in enormous casualties on both sides." Representative Morvex activated his microphone. "Admiral Harrison, are you threatening the coalition?" A pause. "Representative, I'm trying to prevent a misunderstanding that could lead to unnecessary bloodshed." "What kind of misunderstanding?" "The kind where coalition forces believe they can achieve victory through numerical superiority." Another pause, longer this time. "Representatives, our intelligence services have conducted extensive analysis of coalition military capabilities. You're mobilizing approximately 2,000 ships under the assumption that mass numbers will overcome our technological advantages." Chancellor Veldan found her voice. "Admiral, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that if 2,000 coalition ships attack human territory, we'll be forced to defend ourselves. The resulting engagement would end with the complete destruction of every coalition vessel and crew." The words were delivered without emotion, without boasting, without any suggestion of enthusiasm for such an outcome. They sounded like a medical diagnosis. Furthermore, Harrison continued, such an attack would represent a formal declaration of war by the coalition against humanity. We would be obligated to respond accordingly. What would that response entail? Chancellor Veldan asked, though she dreaded the answer. Complete military occupation of coalition space. Dismantlement of your government. Installation of human administrative control over all member worlds pending establishment of acceptable local governance. Representative Torgon stood. That's conquest. You're threatening to enslave 47 civilizations. No, Representative. Slavery implies economic exploitation. We would be implementing temporary administration to prevent further violence while establishing diplomatic relations with individual coalition species. You can't possibly govern 47 different civilizations. Representative, humanity currently administers governance over approximately 1,200 different human cultural groups across 430 worlds. Managing 47 alien civilizations would be complex but not unprecedented. The casual mention of 430 worlds sent shock waves through the chamber. Coalition intelligence had detected fewer than 50 human colonies. General Kexenar activated his microphone. "Admiral Harrison, how many human beings exist in total?" "Currently?" "About 800 billion across 430 worlds, with approximately 2 billion in space-based habitats and exploration fleets." 800 billion. The entire coalition represented fewer than 300 billion sentient beings. "Admiral," Chancellor Veldan said carefully, "what exactly do you want from us?" "Chancellor, we want peaceful coexistence. We want our exploration ships to travel coalition space without being attacked. We want normal diplomatic and trade relationships. We want to contribute to galactic civilization as productive members of the community.
But, you're threatening to conquer us if we refuse.
Chancellor, we're warning you about the consequences of attacking us.
There's a significant difference.
Representative Luquette leaned toward his microphone.
Admiral, what if we agreed to your demands regarding justice and territorial recognition but delayed coalition membership pending proper evaluation procedures?
How long would such evaluation procedures take? Standard assessment for new member species requires 5 to 10 years of observation and analysis.
Representative, our species has been spacefaring for 2 centuries and currently maintains colonies across 430 worlds.
What additional evaluation would be necessary? The question hung in the air. Coalition membership requirements were designed to prevent primitive species from gaining access to advanced technology. Humanity clearly didn't qualify as primitive. Chancellor Veldan made her decision. Admiral Harrison, the Coalition Council needs time to discuss your proposals. Can you give us 48 hours to reach a consensus?
Of course, Chancellor. But, I should mention, our monitoring systems indicate coalition fleets are continuing their approach toward human space.
If they cross into our territory before we reach an agreement, we'll consider that an act of war.
Understood. I'll issue orders to halt fleet movements immediately.
Thank you, Chancellor.
We look forward to a productive resolution.
The transmission ended. For long minutes, the chamber remained silent. Finally, Representative Ziltak spoke. Does anyone have suggestions for how we surrender gracefully to a species we've never officially met?
General Kexnar activated his tactical displays.
The reality is simple.
We can agree to their demands and begin normal diplomatic relations with a powerful new ally.
Or we can fight a war that will result in the extinction of coalition civilization.
But, agreeing to their demands means admitting that coalition justice systems are inadequate, protested Representative Morvex.
It sets a precedent that any alien civilization can demand jurisdiction over our personnel. The precedent has already been set, Chancellor Veldan replied grimly.
When their exploration ship was attacked, they demonstrated that they possess the power to enforce their demands. The only question now is whether we acknowledge that reality diplomatically or learn it through military defeat.
Representative Torgon stood again. Chancellor, what guarantee do we have that they'll honor their agreements? If they're as powerful as they claim, what prevents them from making additional demands in the future? Before Chancellor Veldan could respond, the communications system activated again. Coalition Council, this is Admiral Harrison.
I apologize for interrupting again, but our intelligence services have detected a potential crisis.
What kind of crisis, Admiral?
We've identified 17 separate coalition fleets that appear to be planning coordinated attacks on human territory from multiple vectors. The timing suggests a simultaneous assault designed to overwhelm our defenses.
Chancellor Veldan felt her heart stop. She had specifically ordered all fleet movements to halt. Admiral, I issued orders to prevent any such attacks. If coalition forces are moving against your territory, it's without official authorization. Chancellor, we understand that large military organizations sometimes have communication delays.
We're prepared to give coalition forces additional time to receive and acknowledge your orders.
How much additional time? 12 hours should be sufficient for even the most distant fleets to receive updated orders. And, if they don't withdraw? Chancellor, we really hope it doesn't come to that. The transmission ended again. Representative Luquette accessed his command console. I'm reading confirmed reports from 17 different fleet commanders. They're all claiming orders to proceed with attacks on human targets. That's impossible, Chancellor Veldan protested. I never issued such orders. General Kexnar checked his own systems.
The orders appear to be coming from individual member worlds acting independently.
They're not waiting for council authorization.
The horrible truth settled over the chamber like poison gas. Member worlds were acting on their own, convinced that coordinated attacks could succeed where single fleets had failed.
Admiral Harrison, Chancellor Veldan announced to the communications system, this is Chancellor Veldan. I need to speak with you immediately. I'm here, Chancellor. Admiral, coalition member worlds are acting independently of council authority. I cannot guarantee that our fleets will withdraw within 12 hours. A long pause. Chancellor, are you telling me that the coalition government cannot control coalition military forces? The question cut to the heart of the matter. The coalition had always been a loose confederation of independent worlds. In times of crisis, member worlds frequently acted according to their own interests rather than collective decisions.
Admiral, the coalition operates through consensus. Individual member worlds retain sovereignty over their military forces.
I see.
In that case, Chancellor, we'll hold the Coalition Council responsible for the actions of coalition member worlds.
If any coalition vessel attacks human territory or personnel, we'll consider it an official act of war by the coalition as a whole.
But that's not how our government works.
Chancellor, it's how our response will work. The transmission ended.
In the silence that followed, Chancellor Veldan realized that everything had changed. The coalition faced a species that possessed overwhelming military power and the will to use it. More importantly, they faced a species that thought about warfare, diplomacy, and government in ways the coalition couldn't predict or understand. General, she said quietly, contact every fleet commander immediately.
Any vessel that attacks human territory will be considered a rogue force and stripped of coalition protection.
Yes, Chancellor. And prepare a formal response to Admiral Harrison's demands.
We'll accept all of them immediately.
All of them,
asked Representative Morvex. All of them.
Because the alternative is the end of our civilization. As the Council dispersed to implement humanity's demands, Chancellor Veldan remained alone in the chamber, contemplating the galaxy that no longer belonged to the Coalition. Somewhere in space, human fleets waited patiently for Coalition compliance, ready to teach the galaxy new lessons about the nature of power.
And the galaxy was about to learn that some lessons couldn't be refused.
6 months after humanity's first contact with the Galactic Coalition, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the Coalition Assembly as the newest member species representative. The same chamber where Chancellor Veldan had ordered surrender now hosted humanity's formal admission to galactic civilization.
The irony was not lost on anyone present.
Distinguished representatives, Ambassador Chen began, her voice carrying through translation systems to 47 different species. I stand before you today not as a conqueror, but as a colleague. Humanity has much to learn from the collective wisdom of the Coalition, and we hope to contribute our own perspective to galactic affairs. In the observation gallery, Commander Zexhai watched the proceedings with mixed emotions. The human who had once terrified him now spoke with diplomatic grace about cooperation and mutual understanding.
Yet he couldn't forget the casual efficiency with which her people had dismantled his fleet. Representative Torgon activated his communication array.
Ambassador Chen, while we welcome humanity to the Coalition, certain concerns remain about your species' approach to conflict resolution.
Chen nodded respectfully. Representative, I understand your concerns. The events that led to our first contact were unfortunate but necessary. Was it necessary to disable our entire fleet? Representative, your patrol commander ordered the execution of 23 unarmed scientists. When we requested justice through diplomatic channels, we were ignored.
When our ships were attacked while investigating the incident, we responded with the minimum force necessary to ensure our demands would be heard.
Minimum force? Representative Morvex interjected.
You destroyed one of our most powerful fleets.
Ambassador Chen's expression remained patient. Representative, with respect, we disabled your fleet.
If we had intended destruction, there would have been no survivors to have this conversation. The uncomfortable truth settled over the assembly.
In the 6 months since first contact, Coalition scientists had analyzed human weapons technology.
Their conclusions were classified at the highest levels, but everyone in the chamber understood the implications.
Humanity could have sterilized every Coalition world on the day they arrived. Instead, they had chosen restraint. Chancellor Veldan rose from her position at the center of the assembly. Ambassador Chen, humanity has honored every aspect of our agreement. Justice was served in the matter of the Kepler sector incident. Human territorial claims have been recognized.
And, today we formally welcome your species as full Coalition members. She paused, her tentacles coiling with nervous energy. However, many Coalition citizens remain concerned about humanity's military capabilities.
Can you provide assurance that human forces will not be used to threaten Coalition worlds?
Shen smiled, and the expression carried the same unsettling confidence that had marked every human interaction since first contact.
Chancellor, humanity has no interest in threatening coalition worlds. We are explorers, not conquerors. Our expansion into the galaxy is driven by curiosity, not ambition. Then, why do you maintain such extensive military forces?
The question came from General Kexan, whose tactical analyses had convinced the coalition to surrender rather than fight.
Shen considered the question carefully.
General, humanity learned long ago that the galaxy is not a safe place. We maintain military forces for the same reason coalition worlds maintain police forces, because sometimes peaceful people must be prepared to defend themselves against those who are not peaceful. But, your military capabilities far exceed defensive requirements, pressed Representative Ziltak.
Coalition intelligence estimates suggest human forces could conquer half the galaxy within a year. That's probably accurate, Shin agreed casually.
But, conquest was never our objective.
The admission sent ripples of unease through the assembly. Then, what is your objective? Chancellor Veldan asked.
Chancellor, humanity wants to explore the galaxy, meet new species, share knowledge, and build a better future for all sentient beings.
We want to contribute to galactic civilization, not dominate it. But, you must understand our concerns, Representative Luquette interjected. No species has ever possessed such overwhelming military superiority.
History suggests that power corrupts. Representative, Chin interrupted gently. History also suggests that some species can be trusted with power.
Before anyone could respond, the chamber's emergency communication system activated.
Priority alarms indicated an incoming crisis transmission.
Coalition Assembly, this is Admiral Vexstar commanding the Border Patrol in the Outer Rim sector. We have a situation requiring immediate assistance. Chancellor Veldan activated the response system. Admiral, this is the Coalition Assembly. Report your situation. Chancellor, we've encountered an unknown alien force in the Zirian system.
They've established a blockade around the colony world of Kepler-7 and are demanding surrender.
Our patrol fleet is insufficient to challenge them.
The assembly erupted in concerned discussions.
Kepler-7 hosted 3 million coalition citizens representing 12 different species. Admiral, what are the specifications of this unknown force? Approximately 200 ships of unknown design.
Their technology appears to be significantly advanced. They've ignored all diplomatic communications and opened fire on any vessel approaching the system.
Representative Torgon stood. Chancellor, this is exactly the kind of crisis the coalition defense agreements are designed to address.
We must dispatch the nearest battle fleet immediately. The nearest battle fleet is 48 hours away, General Kexan reported grimly. These unknown hostiles could complete their occupation of Kepler-7 long before our forces arrive. In the uncomfortable silence that followed, every representative came to the same realization simultaneously. The coalition's newest member commanded the most powerful military force in known space.
Chancellor Veldan turned toward Ambassador Chin.
Ambassador, under coalition mutual defense agreements, member species are obligated to provide assistance during external threats to coalition territory.
Chen nodded. Of course, Chancellor. Humanity honors its obligations.
She activated a small device on her wrist.
Admiral Harrison, this is Ambassador Chen.
We have a coalition crisis requiring military response. The reply came immediately.
Standing by for briefing, Ambassador. Chen addressed the assembly. Chancellor, Admiral Harrison commands the 4th Fleet currently conducting training exercises in the Nebula sector.
They can reach Kepler-7 within 6 hours.
How many ships does the 4th Fleet consist of? Asked General Kexan. Approximately 1,500 vessels.
The number hung in the air like a physical presence. The unknown force threatening Kepler-7 commanded 200 ships. Humanity was preparing to respond with 1,500.
Ambassador, Chancellor Veldan said carefully, is such overwhelming force necessary? Chancellor, we don't know what we're dealing with. Admiral Harrison will assess the situation and use appropriate force to resolve the crisis. What constitutes appropriate force in human terms? Asked Representative Morvex nervously. Shen considered the question. Whatever level of violence is necessary to protect coalition citizens and eliminate the threat.
6 hours later, every coalition government monitored the developments at Kepler-7 through long-range sensors and communication relays. What they witnessed changed their understanding of human military doctrine forever. The Fourth Fleet arrived in perfect formation, 1,500 ships materializing from hyperspace with timing so precise it seemed choreographed. The unknown hostile fleet immediately opened fire with weapons that should have overwhelmed any reasonable defense force. They might as well have been throwing stones at a mountain. Human shields absorbed the attacks without apparent strain. Return fire from human vessels struck with surgical precision, disabling hostile ships one by one without destroying them. Within 30 minutes, the entire enemy fleet was dead in space. But Admiral Harrison wasn't finished. Unknown vessels, his transmission broadcast on all frequencies, you are hereby charged with acts of aggression against Coalition territory and citizens. Surrender immediately for processing under Coalition law. The response came in a language Coalition translators had never encountered. The tone suggested the hostiles were rejecting surrender demands. Admiral Harrison's reply was calm and professional. Understood. Implementing capture protocols. What happened next defied everything Coalition military science understood about space combat. Human ships deployed devices that enveloped the disabled hostile vessels in energy fields. The hostile ships simply vanished from normal space, transported elsewhere by technology that shouldn't exist. Admiral Harrison, came Chancellor Veldan's transmission from Nexus Prime. What happened to the enemy vessels? They've been transported to a secure facility for interrogation and processing. We'll determine their origins, motivations, and whether they represent a broader threat to Coalition space. What secure facility? A research station in human space designed for analyzing hostile alien technology and biology. Very humane conditions, fully compliant with Coalition standards for prisoner treatment. The casual mention of specialized facilities for processing hostile aliens sent chills through Coalition leadership. How many other species had humanity encountered? How many threats had they quietly eliminated without Coalition knowledge? Admiral, Chancellor Veldan continued, what about the 3 million Coalition citizens on Kepler-7? Unharmed, Chancellor. Our medical ships are providing assistance to anyone injured during the occupation. We're also upgrading the planet's defensive systems to prevent future incidents. Upgrading how? Standard human protocols. Orbital defense platforms, sensor networks, communication relays. The colony will be capable of defending itself against similar threats in the future. Representative Ziltak leaned toward his communication array. Admiral Harrison, how long will this upgrading process require? Approximately 72 hours for basic defensive systems. Full military-grade protection will take about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Coalition defense installations required months or years to construct. Admiral, what does full military-grade protection entail? Planetary shields capable of withstanding sustained orbital bombardment. Defensive weapon systems with sufficient range to engage threats before they reach the system. Deep space sensor networks providing early warning of approaching hostiles. Standard package for human colonies. The implications were staggering. Humanity was offering to provide defensive technology that exceeded Coalition military capabilities to any Coalition world that requested it. Back in the Coalition Assembly, Ambassador Chin addressed the representatives who had watched the crisis resolution in stunned silence. Distinguished colleagues, the situation at Kepler-7 demonstrates why humanity maintains extensive military forces. The galaxy contains threats that peaceful species cannot handle alone. But, you eliminated an entire fleet without apparent effort, protested Representative Torgon. How do we know you won't use that same force against Coalition worlds? Chen smiled patiently. Representative, we just used that force to defend Coalition worlds. If we intended conquest, we would hardly announce our capabilities so publicly. The logic was unassailable and terrifying. Humanity had just demonstrated the ability to eliminate any threat to Coalition security within hours of detection. They could protect Coalition space better than the Coalition could protect itself. Ambassador, Chancellor Veldan said slowly, what does humanity expect in exchange for this level of protection? Chancellor, we expect what any Coalition member expects, the rights and responsibilities of membership. We want to trade with Coalition worlds, share scientific knowledge, and contribute to galactic civilization. That's all? That's everything that matters to us. General Kexenar activated his display, showing strategic projections that had kept Coalition military planners awake for 6 months. Ambassador, Coalition security depends on the balance of power between member worlds.
No single species has ever possessed the capability to dominate all others. Your presence fundamentally alters that balance. Chen nodded thoughtfully. General, you're absolutely right. Our presence does change the balance of power in coalition space. How do we ensure that change benefits all coalition members rather than just humanity? By trusting us to do the right thing.
The simple statement hung in the air like a challenge.
Representative Luquette leaned forward. Ambassador, trust must be earned. What guarantee can you provide that humanity will continue acting in coalition interests?
Chen stood and walked to the center of the chamber, placing herself where Chancellor Veldan normally stood when addressing the assembly.
Representatives, 6 months ago your fleets attacked human vessels. We responded by disabling your forces and demanding justice. We could have demanded tribute, territory, or unconditional surrender.
Instead, we asked for an apology and membership in your alliance. She gestured toward the viewscreen showing Kepler 7, where human medical ships were treating coalition casualties. Today, unknown hostiles threaten coalition citizens. We responded by eliminating the threat and offering to upgrade planetary defenses. We could have demanded payment, political concessions, or strategic advantages. Instead, we're providing the service free of charge because it's the right thing to do. The assembly fell silent as representatives processed her words. Distinguished colleagues, you ask for guarantees about humanity's future behavior. The guarantee is our past behavior. We don't seek to rule the galaxy. We seek to protect it. Chancellor Veldan found her voice. Ambassador, what does humanity ultimately want? Chen smiled, and, for the first time since humans had arrived in coalition space, the expression seemed entirely genuine and unthreatening.
Chancellor, we want to go home at night knowing that the galaxy is a little safer, a little wiser, and a little better than it was when we woke up that morning. We want our children to inherit a universe where different species work together to solve problems instead of fighting over resources. She paused, looking around the chamber at representatives of 47 different worlds. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Just like you do. In the months that followed, coalition citizens watched humanity integrate into galactic civilization with careful attention to every detail. Human merchants traded fairly. Human scientists shared discoveries freely. Human diplomats negotiated in good faith. And human military forces quietly eliminated threats that coalition intelligence services never even detected. The galaxy was learning that some species could indeed be trusted with overwhelming power. Some species chose to use that power to protect rather than dominate. And, sometimes, the most terrifying warriors in the galaxy were the ones who fought only to defend others. Commander Zexhai, now serving as coalition liaison to human military forces, watched human crews train with coalition officers and smiled. He had believed he understood war before meeting humanity. Now he understood something far more important. He understood peace.